broadcast has started. Over to you, Dr. Nabi.
We still have few minutes, or can we start? Because it's already 100.
Yes, 100 have joined, so we have maximum capacity with us.
Please start.
Okay. So welcome you all to this webinar. Mr. Arshad has some audio issue. So therefore, I am starting. I am Dr. Nabi Hassan. I am President of Asian Chapter Special Library Association. I am a librarian and head at Central Library, Indian Institute of Technology. We are honored and privileged that Miss Loida Garcia Febo is with us. In fact, it's an honor for SLA Asian community and the people who are attending this webinar. So with me are the SLA people, like we have with us Dr. PK Jain, who is SLA Board of Directors. Then we have Mr. Arshad, who is basically the organizing coordinator of this webinar. Then we have with us with Dr. Parveen Babbar. We welcome you all, Dr. Garcia. So I would like to introduce and welcome on behalf of the SLA and SLA Asian chapter. Ms. Loida Garcia Febo is an international library consultant, researcher and expert on topics such as human rights, advocacy and services to multicultural populations. She is the immediate past president of the American Library Association, which is really a great honor, being American Library Association immediate past president. Garcia Febo has served communities as academic, public, school and special librarian in Puerto Rico and New York. She has taught in 27 countries. That's amazing. She has taught in 27 countries and has advocated on behalf of libraries at the United Nations, European Union Parliament, US Congress, New York City, City Hall, New York State Senate, and on streets and sidewalks of New York. She completed 2 terms on the IFLA Governing Board, where she chaired the Action for Development through Libraries Program, ALP. At IFLA, she also co-founded IFLA New Professionals SIG, served in FAIFE and CPWDWL, and is currently member of the Management of Library Associations section. Garcia is the recipient of the 2015 Reforma Elizabeth Martinez Lifetime Achievement Award. She was named a notable member of ALA's International Relations Fund table, received the ALA Elizabeth Footers Catalyst for Change Award in 2010, and was named a Library Journal Mover and Shaker Freedom Fighter in 2007. Garcia holds a BA in Business Education and MLS from the University of Puerto Rico. She was born, raised, and educated in the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico. So with this, I would like to invite Ms. Loida Garcia Febo to start her presentation, please.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I am very happy to join the SLA Asia chapter. I've heard many good things and how the chapter is increasing membership, and there are many activities in the region. So it's a good opportunity, and I'm very happy to join you all. It's an honor. So now I need to share my screen. I think someone needs to send me that, or let's see if it works like this. Can you see that?
Yes, your screen is visible, Brisha. Just you have to. It is visible now. Full screen is visible. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to interfere. Like the attendees, if you have any question, please ask those questions in the chat box. We will take up the question at the end of the session. So Dr. Praveen will take up the questions with the Garcia once the session is over.
Sure, I will do that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is a momentous time for libraries and for the communities we serve. Our world and the global information environment is being transformed by new policies, new technologies. There is a renewed focus on the communities served. And now we have COVID-19 changing everything as we knew it. Life as we know it has changed, and library services have forever changed too. Library programs and services will always be about people. That is unchangeable. This is a time to rethink and reimagine the relationship between libraries, librarians, communities, local and global institutions and organizations. I know we are ready to deepen the difference. We, the library, the global library community, are ready to deepen the difference we make in our communities. It is not an easy task. Therefore, we must be intentional in our thinking and our actions to serve as a catalyst for change. The role of libraries and librarians is essential in the information ecosystem to promote citizen participation, social inclusion, positivism, and hope. By actively collaborating to achieve these goals, we will make the world a better place for us and for everyone else. We can help save our community and the world. Our efforts can have a cascade or a domino effect, going from impacting our local area to the city, the country, the region, and the world. These concepts could be seen as an aspirational approach, as many of us hope that circumstances in the world improve. At the same time, I believe they also include a practical approach, as libraries facilitate workshops, access to books, research, the internet, and information to the communities they serve in academic, public, school, or specialized libraries. These resources allow people to learn how to tackle their needs. Additionally, these concepts are social in nature, as we are social beings that seek to interact with others, as well as to help each other. Therefore, access to information becomes a tool for education, citizen engagement, and empowerment. As per IFLA and UNESCO Multicultural Library Manifesto, the role and purpose of libraries is to function as learning, cultural, and information centers. As learning centers, we provide access to information that can help someone understand their health condition, find a job, or start their own business. All libraries can do that, help others. As a cultural center, we provide the opportunity for people to experience different aspects of cultural groups in their communities. As information centers, libraries acquire, produce, organize, preserve, and make accessible information that address the needs of all communities. I always find useful to look at resources developed by different library associations, to review sources and models to inform my strategies. And today, I will share information from the American Library Association, other library associations in the USA, and some libraries in different regions, perhaps, that are serving during the pandemic, and how they are recommending we serve our communities. We serve communities at academic library, public libraries, school libraries, special libraries. We all have a very distinctive community. The information will include brief touches on various items, including shifting from in-person services to online services, copyright matters, online programming from all types of libraries. There will be something about e-resources and wellness for library workers. But first, I will start with ALA. ALA created a page called ALA COVID-19 Response. And there we have all types of resources from the beginning. For instance, this is the first step ALA took was that in March, ALA started recommending libraries to close the physical buildings to keep the librarians and patrons safe, right? That was at the beginning. And then on National Library Workers' Day on April 21, and we can see how long we've been, right, experiencing the pandemic. So in April 21, the ALA Executive Board reaffirmed the need to protect safety and well-being of library workers during COVID-19 pandemic. ALA also recommended that libraries leave Wi-Fi open during closure while continue to follow any applicable law. In ALA's Public Library Association, together with Microsoft, announced an initiative to help expand internet access in rural communities during the COVID-19 crisis. And so they will follow the state and federal health and safety guidelines to provide internet access to those without it at home. At the same time, the ALA Executive Board sent a statement indicating that they stood with the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association in condemning xenophobia, racism against this population. This is very important because many Asian people, including librarians, were attacked by other people here in the States. And this here is a page that we also developed with resources about this situation, about this topic, and also fake news, how all that impact the Asian population here in the States. And I've heard that it's been like that perhaps in other countries. So we're trying to work with our colleagues. Throughout all this time, ALA has used the hashtag #LibrariesStrong to highlight the value and role of libraries during the pandemic. This hashtag was started by me last year while I presided ALA, and you can search on social media using this hashtag to find information from ALA and what libraries are doing as well. Their libraries have embraced the hashtag and have shared many resources and examples through it. Another piece of information I wanted to share is that in order to capture data to help libraries as we move forward, the ALA Public Library Association coordinated with several ALA units and other library associations, including the Association of College and Research Libraries, ACRL, a survey of the library community to understand the current impact the crisis is having in their operations, programs, services, and finances. So it's important data collection. All library types were encouraged to respond. The data was collected only at the library organizational level, not the outlet or branch level, but library directors or someone designated at the library completed the survey on behalf of the system. And a PDF of the version of the survey was made available to help plan the library's answers. The survey is now closed and the results will be reported soon in June. So keep an eye on the ALA communication channels for those results that I'm sure will be good for all types of libraries. In terms of advocacy with elected officials, this is something that is very important and strong over here. One major win was how ALA mobilized library advocates to advocate for the inclusion of libraries on the CARES Act funding from the government that was delivered through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, IMLS. And this is going to be used to focus on digital inclusion. And as per ALA, these funds will boost libraries' continued efforts to prepare for and respond to a vast array of community needs as a result of the coronavirus, especially for those who rely on libraries for an internet connection to access unemployment benefits, distance learning, and other critical areas of relief. And in terms of free programs, one excellent concept was developed during this time is the presentation of monthly events for the ALA membership entitled ALA Connect Live, which are online forums where the ALA leadership give updates related to the association and COVID-19. They also invite librarians to speak about their library services during these times and their plans to safely reopen the physical building when the right time comes. During the last forum, I was invited to speak about the well-being of librarians and how to stay safe. ALA is also offering free webinars for everyone on topics such as confronting xenophobia and supporting Asian and Asian Pacific American communities during COVID-19, continue efforts and strategies to reopen library facilities around the country. Another was about working together on planning, policy, and legal issues for reopening a public library, how to work with the board, the attorneys, and the librarian. Another one was about protecting privacy in a pandemic, information literacy instruction at a social distance. What are the strategies for moving online? And that was from ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries. We also had another one, and these are only a few because it's been really beautiful to see how many of these free webinars are have been done, and they are available. I'm including the link here on the screen. So the last one I want to mention is one about copyright for campus closures, exploring the copyright issues around moving instructions and reference online. Tips for suddenly switching to online reference and access services. So those are some of the free webinars available on the ALA website about COVID-19 response. Besides the free webinars, ALA Editions, the ALA Neil Schumann, is offering a free PDF ebook entitled Libraries as Safe Haven, Disaster Planning, Response, and Recovery, which is useful to understand how to manage disasters and crises, such as the COVID-19, and is available for everyone too. All the 11 ALA divisions of which are library associations, and you know some of them like ACRL, the Public Library Association, the Association of American School Librarians. So all of the 11 divisions have developed resources for the members. And if you go to the ALA COVID-19 response, you will be able to find them. I'm going to highlight ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries website, which includes resources on the following areas: distance education and engagement for librarians, self-care and new ways of working, collection maintenance with many tips about preservation of materials. There is another section on free time, free learning to encourage continuing professional development. They have gathered resources to help libraries prepare to reopen. And I will share a little bit more about this in the next few minutes. They also have a session on government resources for institutes of higher education. And of course, they include ALA resources at large. They have a section on community resources. And I would like to highlight this section because it features many resources, including a survey by Lisa Janicke Hinchlife. She is from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and Christine Wolf Eisenberg from Ithaca. And they used these to gather information on academic libraries. So they have a survey to gather information on academic libraries in the United States and their response to COVID-19. I think this is a very useful survey for anyone around the world to have perhaps, better understanding on what happened to academic libraries during the pandemic and perhaps can relate to their own country. Libraries were encouraged to fill out a form and contribute to the collective understanding of how libraries were responding to the situation during the pandemic. A link to the survey, live results, dashboards, visualizations, and more, all that is available on the U.S. Academic Library Response to COVID-19 survey website. And I'm including a screenshot of the very first section of the page and the link to it. Another area that I would like to highlight is choice. And choice is part of ALA and is part of ACRL. It's the publishing unit of ACRL. As you know, it's the division of ALA. And together, choice and ACRL provide professional development tools for librarianship. The editors at Choice are compiling complementary, free, choice-created content and other industry resources to make them easily accessible to librarians to help in the process of, what is next after the pandemic, or, when we start reopening when it's safe. We hope that the information is helpful to you during this time, and we will continue, they said, to update the information on the website. So if you will prefer to receive updates and additions in your inbox, the Shelter in Place e-newsletter, which is their newsletter, will go out once or twice a week during the COVID-19 crisis. You can subscribe to that, and you can sign up on their website, which is on their screen. And I'm happy to share this presentation so you can get the website. Library associations, well, that was about ALA, but there are other library associations here in the United States, and I'd like to share some of the resources and some of the ways they have responded to help the members. So they have been presenting online events about different topics. I just shared with you some examples from ALA. And now I would like to share examples of what they are doing for the members during this time. For instance, the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, which is an autonomous association with this beautiful name, an affiliate of ALA, but their own association, developed a 2-day summit, which they entitled Connecting, Cultivating, and Collaboration. They feature many author talks about different issues and themes of interest to the members. They also feature many presentations about skills for the 21st century. They even presented a program on finances for turbulent times and other valuable presentations. So they cover a wide variety of areas of interest to the membership. They also celebrated those who were graduating from college this year with a beautiful online prom celebration where the ALA executive director gave the keynote address. So they really went above and beyond to benefit their members during the crisis. The Asian Pacific American Librarians Association presented a webinar entitled Confronting Xenophobia and Supporting Asian and Asian Pacific American Communities during COVID-19. And this is an association, I'm a member of the both association I have mentioned in the last couple of minutes. And this association is also an autonomous association from ALA, but they're affiliated. So it's great to be part of them as well. And now I have another example from another association, also autonomous and affiliated to ALA. This is Reforma, and this is the National Library Association to promote library and information services to Latinos and the Spanish-speaking. And they are planning a webinar about library services to Spanish speakers in COVID-19 times. And this will be later in June. So library associations have mobilized, like you are doing as well, presenting events to help their membership during this pandemic. I would like to share that as a member of the IFLA's Management of Library Associations section, I am very glad that we were able to collaborate with IFLA at large to encourage our members, library associations, to send information about their efforts related to COVID-19 to IFLA headquarters, and these they are compiling them and posting them on the IFLA website that we have on screen, COVID-19 and the global library field. So you have probably seen these around. I would like to mention as the last examples of library associations and perhaps other libraries around the world, an initiative from the Biblioteca Alexandria in Egypt. They created a YouTube series, mostly in Arabic, entitled Quarantine Diary of Information Professionals, and featuring librarians speaking about what they do during the quarantine in professional and also personal life. How are we all dealing with this pandemic? And I thought it was very interesting because we usually speak about professional things, but they invited me to be one of the people featured in the series. You can see towards the right side of my slide, there are a number of videos of different colleagues that sent the videos. They were invited to send the videos, but they asked me how I was managing my wellness time, what I was doing with that, right? So it's very interesting. It's very short. Each one of the videos are very short. I think mine is like 5 minutes, a little bit over 5 minutes. So I encourage you to look at it. There are some in Arabic and there are some, mine is in English. And it's on their YouTube channel that you can see there. Quarantine Diary of Information Professionals. So library associations and libraries have been busy providing not only their communities with programming and resources, but also their libraries, librarians, library workers with information and resources to cope during this time. So as we know, COVID-19 shift the way libraries provided services. Due to the closing of the physical buildings of libraries, right, to protect the health of library workers and the patrons, the community, many libraries moved their services online. Libraries have started to draft plans to reopen, and I am hearing more and more that in the future, many services will include an online component. During this time, libraries such as Los Angeles Public Library, Queens Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library, among many others, went above and beyond to present programming and services online for diverse populations, including those that speak other languages and that have different abilities and ethnic backgrounds. So for instance, we had libraries presenting, all of this was presented and is still being presented on their Facebook pages, on their Instagram pages, on the YouTube channels. Everything became online. And so they had storytelling in Bengali, Chinese, Spanish. They also had some story time by some other performers from the community, like drag queens. They provided advice for immigrants, citizenship and passports, and all that was on this part of the advice was on email, and they also developed live chat sections. They provided some programming to empower the community, women empowerment. They are actively documenting stories from the pandemic, and they're encouraging the community to send stories via email. They are providing advice on how to write resume and cover letters. People send them through email, and they have certain times, I think it's a day or two, to the librarians to respond to the patrons and help them. They are providing programs on self-care, well-being through crafts. And this is all live stream like we are doing right now. Everything is online. They have author talks, and I just read that there will be a dance festival online, and they are going to feature different groups, and they are all going to send their videos, or they're going to dance live, and it's going to be on Facebook and on Instagram. So it's a beautiful way of helping communities, providing services still online, and they can do it. I'm very aware that there are many other areas in the country and also in the world where, you know, Wi-Fi and the broadband are still very critical issues. So this is another area where we have seen how it has impacted library services to our patrons. The last thing I wanted to mention in this section is that, for instance, in Los Angeles, librarians are providing reference services through a very interesting concept. They have 3 or 4 librarians on the screen, and they invite the community to ask questions. And it's like a mini forum, and so they provide some type of, they provide reference and also types of different answers to different questions in live time. And so this is done in Spanish. So they're trying to serve communities that speak other languages this way. It's beautiful, and it's an inspiring service as well. It is important to mention various examples of how other libraries are serving communities. For instance, I mentioned that libraries are leaving the Wi-Fi open for community members to access the internet on the sidewalk or in their cars to connect to connect with government services, to connect with their family or friends. Libraries are also helping in the deployment of 3D printers. Here on the screen, we have a screenshot from the Los Angeles Public Library, which is a very unique library. It's almost like an academic library in different countries, including Puerto Rico, my country. This will be an academic library. And so they have used their 3D printing to print face shields in a lab they have called the Octavia Lab, and they are providing local hospitals with these face shields in partnership with the city. It's beautiful. For instance, I have another example of a library that is doing this same thing. This one is from El Dorado in California, and they said that we have a large 3D print lab, and our lead volunteer is working with a foundation from that community to use the printers to print face shields for their local regional hospitals and other city facilities. So libraries are doing a very interesting shift in work to help the community. They are also coordinating local services and information. For instance, a library in Minnesota said that the library worked with other city partners to open a day shelter for those experiencing homelessness at the city-owned Mayo Civic Center, where all the programs and events are canceled. So they open a homeless shelter there. And other library administrative teams members were called to service the community as part of the overall continuity of operations for city services. So some librarians that are part of libraries that are part of city government, not all libraries here are part of city government, but some that are being called by the local government to serve in other areas where the physical building is closed. So you can see the variety of roles that librarians have been playing during this pandemic. Libraries have been also adapting in-person programs for online delivery. And I just shared with you a list of some of the events that I've seen online. And so the one thing different is from this library in Maine. They are doing knitting. They are doing online knitting meeting groups for anyone who like to knit. They can do that and they meet online. So there is no limits, right? And so their libraries also have been adding or expanding virtual library cards. And here is San Francisco Public Library, and they have all the instructions on how to obtain an online library card that could be temporary as well. And if you look at the screen, the information on the application is in different languages, in the languages spoken by the community. So they have the information in English, in Chinese, in Spanish. They also have information on Japanese, Russian, Filipino, Vietnamese. So it's a very interesting community, and the library is trying to provide information in the languages they speak. So there is this library in Virginia, the state of Virginia, and they have a really interesting story about the virtual library cards. They said that they have issued 418 library cards in 3 weeks since they were closed, and customers can apply on their website, and their barcode number is emailed to them. And so they are adding several hundred ebooks and e-audiobooks per week for those patrons to be able to download them and use them. And so they are already seeing that their digital collection is heavily used. So the community is appreciating those services. And as we can see, all these different services show that libraries changed during the pandemic. They took incredible action if it was possible and moved everything online, which, as I mentioned, it can be a challenge in different cities or different regions of the world. But what do I see changing in the library and information sciences professions after the pandemic is over? Life as we know it has changed. Yes, and library services forever change as well. But libraries, as I mentioned earlier, and services will always be about people. That is unchangeable. That has not changed. One fascinating aspect of how many libraries were able to shift in a sudden and disrupting way from a model rooted in in-person services to a model where online is at the center of everything we do. So if we were able to execute that massive change and still manage to provide services that are helping our patrons, we might be able to continue doing more online when we have more time to carefully plan all of the complex components of such services. We are still experiencing many changes, but I can see how ways in which libraries operated before COVID-19 will be transformed. And that will include data security, copyright matters, online programming from all types of libraries. An aspect, though, that we must pay attention is the well-being of library workers. And this is a picture of me with library supporters and workers from Los Angeles Public Library. The attention and care that employees receive from their employer must be revised to ensure that employees stay healthy and safe at their places of work. And there are salary and performance considerations that need to be looked at. For instance, a question that I will leave with you is how do you manage those considerations when the employees cannot go to the physical building because there is a pandemic. All these are very important to keep our amazing library workers and librarians safe and to move our profession forward and for libraries to continue providing services to our communities. So some inputs among the different considerations are some that are included here on the screens. For instance, let's look at this list. And it's inputs that are useful to consult when planning the reopening of physical buildings. There are different documents that are available in some cities and maybe not in others, but you know, there are executive orders, there are health department guidance. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, and together with the scientific company Battelle. They are conducting a research on how long the COVID-19 virus survives on materials that are pertinent to libraries, archives, preparing for reopened libraries. And that was a research on the high priority materials. And that was from May to August. So it started now in May and it will end in August 2020. Phase 2 will be additional research on support the operations of libraries, archives, and museums. That's from June 2020 to October. And then phase 3 will be monitoring and update. That's from October 2020 to September 2021. And so I will ask you, recommend that you keep an eye on this very project. Other considerations include, for instance, the refinement of library policies, the cleaning of facilities, staff training. It's important because if we are asking the staff to do things, new things, we need to train them, right? We need to provide a continuing education and equip them. Then we have different communications that to be clear and transparent for everybody to be on the same page and understand. And so, and then there's the important part of the phase reopening, right? That includes different phases, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, as we have heard how libraries are preparing to open. And so I will leave some of this with you here, because I want to go into some other considerations related to fair use in this DMC and rights holders. There are some considerations that we need to look into. A group of librarians over here wrote a white paper about these, and I'd like to share some of their writing, for instance, related to fair use. They recommend, and they said that clearly making materials available and accessible to students in this time of crisis will almost always be fair use. And as long as we are thoughtful in our analysis and limit our activities to the specific needs of our users during this time of crisis, copyright laws support our users. The fair use doctrine, and this is related to where I reside, because you have different copyright laws in different countries. So this fair use doctrine here accommodates the flexibility required by our shared public health crisis, allowing society to function and progress while protecting life and human security. And so I'm just going to highlight some points. Now I'm going to highlight considerations for DMCA and video. While fair use offers a clear path for most users in rapid change to remote temptation, some users raise other concerns. In particular, copying an entire movie or television episode from a DVD for use in education may require circumvention of technical protection measures, which is prohibited by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA. Like fair use, the DMCA is designed with flexibility in mind. It allows the Library of Congress to create exemptions that allow circumvention in certain circumstances. Unfortunately, current exemptions extend only to copying short portions of moving images for use in certain types of teaching, not to copying the entire work, even when doing so is clearly fair use. So whenever possible, they recommend using the video through licensed services from Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and cable channels. And many movies are readily available either for free or after paying some low access fees. In regards to rights holders, the point I thought about highlighting was that some creators and other copyright owners may find some analysis troubling. And so the writers of the white paper said they offer the following analysis from a place of deep respect for the creators and to provide a practical lens through which the colleagues working as instructors and educational support positions can take copyright into account despite seismic changes that they are implementing in support of public health. So they encourage the use of pre-licensed, open license content and public domain alternatives, and working with content providers to find mutually agreed ways to expand existing access to support social distancing for instruction and research. So they commended the providers who have stepped forward to provide free access to certain resources until the end of the current academic period, which falls within, this crisis of the pandemic. Interestingly, just a few days ago, I read this article about publishers suing the Internet Archive about some of these matters. The articles say that when the Internet Archive announced that it was creating a national emergency library, temporarily suspending waitlists to borrow ebooks amid the pandemic, a crowd of writers and publishers made their outrage clear, and now their complaint has reached the courts. The Internet Archive is engaged, they said, in willful mass copyright infringement. And so 4 major publishers said in a lawsuit filed Monday of this week, that is ending today, in federal court. And so the plaintiffs are John Wiley & Sons and 3 of the big 5 US publishers, Hachette Book Group, HarperCollins, and Penguin Random House. And they are trying to block the Internet Archive operations and recover damages for scores of alleged infringed works. That's what the article says. So we need to follow this case because it might impact library services in a post-COVID-19 world. The ways that communities respond to the pandemic may have lasting implications on how society operated during and after the pandemic. For instance, in the area of libraries and technology, there will be likely a growing dependence on big technology companies as partners in government solutions and to support communities' new stay-at-home orders. Technology-driven solutions to monitor the spread of the virus and to support social distancing may threaten and further erode the value of privacy. Some countries have deployed drones to monitor and police residents, for instance, use of face masks. Others are using anonymized data from telecommunications company to track people movements. Others are using facial recognition cameras to monitor those who violate quarantine or safe self-isolation. And we have other examples. But how libraries will use, how library values for privacy and intellectual freedom fare in a world where big data and tracking technologies have become a more regular part of community and government responses? How libraries will help community members understand the levels of information being collected in different spaces and the necessity for institutions to report or share information with public health officials. The strain of stay-at-home orders and the push for contactless service has accelerated interest in technology like delivery robots, self-driving cars, and drones. So definitely drone delivery has seen a boost in interest. Even as the interest has grown, the reality of their uses in this pandemic shows that many of these technologies are not ready to fully tackle the scope of work for which they are needed. So, will the current crisis lead libraries to invest in technologies like automatic book sorters, robotic book retrieval systems, and other contactless technologies? Now, related to libraries as workplace, that's the second area I want to highlight in moving forward, right? There will likely be changes to the layout and flow of workers in their workspaces. Some workplaces may introduce screening and prevention systems, including distribution of masks, use of thermal scanners, or contact tracing systems to help identify workers who have been exposed to the virus and minimize spread across the workforce. And they have different strategies to help minimize staff contact. And so to do that, the workplaces may create policies for staggered arrival times to minimize entrance and elevator crowding, removal of furniture and seating from conference rooms, limit occupancy in break rooms, floor markings around desks that delineate a 6-foot radius, and signage to direct people in one-way traffic flows through hallways and other common areas. And so there are different things. For instance, remote work. Once a special benefit enjoyed by only a small portion of the workforce will be greatly expanded as more workers utilize video conferencing platforms and communication channels to handle work when they are not in the physical office. And so, for instance, Twitter already announced plans to adopt some of these policies for its employees and fast-track a new policy to allow almost all workers to work from home permanently. So how will libraries accommodate library workers that wish to complete more of their work remotely? This could include issues of equity within the organization, team cohesion, communication, and other challenges to organizational culture. But libraries depend on frontline staff to provide valuable services to communities. And the pandemic has challenged many libraries to balance their commitment to the community with their commitment to safety of staff and the patrons they serve. So as libraries return to a world that could continue to have some public health risk How will frontline staff be supported? These are all some good questions for you to think about and discuss with your colleagues. We are definitely living in a different world now. As librarians, we are all creating the library of the future every day in the present time. So we ought to dedicate time to plan, to cultivate relationships with organizations serving diverse populations, for these to grow the strong partnerships and build our skills to help us moving forward in the post-COVID-19 world. This represents a good investment in the community's future, which will further civic engagement and participation of everyone in the community to solve problems and tackle issues impacting our neighborhoods, our communities, and our libraries. And ultimately, this is worth the time and effort involved. For those individuals who trust enough to walk into our libraries, we have to actively ensure that libraries are still at the heart of their community. And as librarians, we are positioned with exceptional opportunities to raise awareness, build community, and improve understanding and cooperation for diversity and inclusion. Promoting dialogue and cooperation is necessary investment in our local, national, and international futures. This is the only way that we can move forward. At the beginning of my speech, I shared that this is a time to rethink, reimagine the relationship between libraries, librarians, local and global organizations. It is my hope that we are encouraged by the examples and the resources I've shared from library associations, libraries, library workers, coordinating services for all in their communities, and that we can reflect on the different questions and the different scenarios that we are seeing for the future, and that we all support it. So let's work together, continue working together as a big global library field, and continue building our communities, because libraries do equal strong communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Loida, for your wonderful presentation. I think whatever questions were asked in this session, I think you have touched all the points in your presentation. I'm surprised to see I have what to ask, but all the questions you have asked, so I mean, you have given answers already to those questions, and your presentation was wonderful. We must appreciate that you have, I think, touched every point related to COVID-19 and libraries and associations of ALA and IFLA. Everything you have covered wonderfully. I must congratulate you and thank you for being on this the webinar. Thank you so much. But still, I have 2-3 questions which I will ask on the part of the attendees. One was the question that can you suggest some points related to the national associations, because you have touched ALA and IFLA also. So in the Asian countries, the environment is still different. So can you answer on that what national associations of Asian countries should do, seek, because you know about the environment of Asian countries. So a quick point on that, if you can give what they need to do that in this in the case of COVID-19 for the libraries.
Well, you are living in the Asian region, so you are in the region. But what I will say, and this is this is a very broad question, right? What they can do, they can do many things. But I do know there are. We all experience different challenges in our regions of the world, and so I will recommend that you have more forums like these to have conversations, to listen to the needs of, for instance, the members in terms of library associations, right? What are the needs of the members? what is happening with the libraries, and based on that, you can then look at perhaps some of the examples I shared, some of the examples from what others are doing, and see what you can take from that. Because to me, it's always very important to,
Right. Very,
to speak
very true. We
to
can
the,
always take some of the points from ALA, IFLA, and copy to that and do similar things which can be possible in the Asian libraries. That can be definitely done.
yes, yes.
Another question from Mohammed Yusuf Ali is that because most of the librarians at this moment are working 24/7, because we are online all time, we are answering to the queries of the users. There is no time limit. So, do you have any standards given by ALA or I mean IFLA related to the schedules of the working environment, or similar to that, so that the librarians can reach out to the management, that showing that this kind of thing is prevailing at this moment, so schedules can be divided.
That's a very important question because it impacts the well-being and the health of the librarians. And what they've done over here is they have structured a system where they follow shifts. People are home, but people are still working for the library. So it's still, they follow the same shift in terms of the schedule. And we have shifts of librarians that are working. I'm going to give an example. 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. Then we have 3 to 11. Then we have some librarians, very few, 1 or 2, that are working sometime from 11 to 2 in the morning. And so there are like 2 of them. But no one is working around the clock because that is really bad for the health. And we don't do that when the libraries are open. We go to the library building and we work our shift. Sometimes people like to work more, right? If they're researching, they want to read more and stay and use the computer in the office. But we follow a schedule, and that's what we've been recommending, that because we are home or not in the physical library, we're not going to be working all the time. And so I'm happy to perhaps share some resources with you on these recommendations. It's very important because if our workforce is sick and is not able to work, then we also have a problem there. We need to take care of our library workers. And so, yes, this is what I can share with you. No one is working all the time. We are following the same schedules that we had when we were working in the offices.
Okay, right. There is a quick question from Muhammad Nadeem. He has asked that because as the world is changing now, you said that we are in unprecedented situation now, and in future also the things will change. So a quick answer on the point that do you think that LIS labels and other kind of teachings would change in libraries, or will they remain same? A quick comment on that.
Can you please just expand a little bit? What are the changes in which areas?
In the syllabus, in the teaching environment of library science, in the departments, and that
Yes,
in time to come.
yes. What I'm hearing more and more is that it will be more online teaching, and that brings a whole lot of considerations in terms of copyright and fair use, in terms of what we can include in our classes. Some classes are videotaped and the professor posts the video. Some classes are recorded, even if you have the PowerPoint slides, but you do need to look into the copyright according to your country laws. So there's a lot on that. And in terms of the ebook lending, because companies, then we need to look, what is available in ebook and online before people will go to the library and maybe read there, the physical resource. But now we need to look into the ebooks and what is available online, what the library has available to support the teaching. But I have been hearing that there will be more teaching online here, for instance, in New York and in other areas. some universities are not opening the physical buildings during this the rest of the year. So classes will be online. And so they need to look into all those matters.
Right. You talked about the lending and other things, books lending and other things. Muhammad Sayed has related question that how can we provide the IL service, basically library lending now in this period? It is, I think it is not possible, but we have to take the precautions. But your experience on that?
Yes, so right now that is not happening in many areas because it's not possible in terms of the physical resources. They are still, the interlibrary service from articles and some books, ebooks, whatever is available online, they're still doing that type of transaction with other organizations and other libraries. But what is the next thing in the next phase of reopen libraries, what I've heard is that they're going to open first for some hours for researchers and professors that must go and read in the object, physical object, for some hours. And there will be very strict health measures. So they will be in an area with this plexiglass kind of surrounding them. They need to use masks, they need to use gloves, they need to use hand sanitizer if they don't have gloves. And then will be there by themselves certain hours. So this is all has to do with policies, and these are big conversations that library directors need to have with the staff who is comfortable serving people, and then who is going to have the priority and which hours. So that's what I heard so far.
That's true. That's true. We have to change. We have to have big talks now regarding all the policies has to be made in times to come. Right. Very true. And thank you so much. These were some of the questions. Some other questions are there, but I will share you on the email so that you can respond to those questions because we are running out of the time. Arshad ji, if you can hear me, a quick comment from your side. If you can now unmute yourself and come on the mic.
Actually, Dr. Arshad is his friend met in his friend met with an accident. Unfortunately, I think he's in the hospital. So Arshad was connected through mobile. Unfortunately, he was not visible to us. So he has sent a WhatsApp message just now to me to thank Loida on behalf of the Pakistan Library Club. And many of the people are asking, Madam, will you be able to share your presentation? Can we upload your presentation on chapter website? Will
yes,
you be agree?
Yes, I can send it to Arshad, yes.
Please. And then we will also request you to allow us to upload your recording as well. People are requesting.
Yes, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Some of the people are asking how to become the member of ALA as well from this part of the world.
Yes. I'm happy to send the link of the membership for the membership information, and then you can share it with your members. Yes.
Fine. So as far as SLA is concerned, SLA Asia, those who want to become the member of SLA, because some of the people have also written in the chat box. So you can become the member of SLA Asia by paying US dollar 25. It's a special, you can say discounted membership fee for new members. You can see this PPT is a few slides. So SLA has come up with a code save 50, and you need to pay just $25 for new members, and you can now add any number of communities, but please add SLA Asian chapter or Asian community. So formally on behalf of SLA Asian chapter and on behalf of Arshad, Pakistan Library Club, and the community from Asia, I wish to express my deepest regard to Garcia for her wonderful presentation. Everybody liked it, and it was so clear, really very useful, that almost all the questions have already been answered in your presentation. So we express really your greatest. We are really grateful to you for your time in this early morning. I would like to invite Dr. P.K. Jain to say few words, because he is from the SLA Board of Directors. Dr. P.K. Jain, to please, on behalf of the SLA headquarters, to convey our gratitude to Garcia, please.
On behalf of the Special Libraries Association SLA, I thank to Ms. Garcia for this wonderful presentation. I also congratulate Pakistan Library Club, especially Dr. Arshad, to initiate for this webinar. This was a very wonderful webinar, and hope this type of webinar will be held in near future also. Thank you once again, Ms. Garcia, Dr. Parveen Babbar, Dr. Navi Hassan, and Dr. Arshad. Thank you. Thanks to the participants. At the participants, there was a limitation for 100 participants. More and more want to join, but next time we will give this opportunity to join up to 1,000 participants. Thank you all.
And those who could not join, we have already, conveyed them that we will be sharing the PPT and the recording. So I think it will be a supplement. It will help them to understand your thoughts, the ALS vision. Thank you, Garcia. Thank you very much. Dr. Praveen, may please end the session for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.